Another day, another update in Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's litany of lawsuits.
We love our job and we love our work and we take it very, very seriously.
Hollywood scandals are nothing new, but the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni legal battle, it's on a whole new level. This is not just a case of creative differences. This is a full-blown war of lawsuits, leaked evidence, and A-list power moves.
You're going to be sorely disappointed because if clickbait was an amendment, this is it.
From secret meetings to the wildest Cold War Hollywood has ever seen, and a whopping $400 million lawsuit, this drama has it all. So today, we're going to break down the 10 most explosive moments in this shocking legal saga. Trust me, keeping it at just 10 was a huge challenge. This is a real-life soap opera with enough twists and turns to make a whole movie.
The actress now claims in her amended lawsuit that her It Ends With Us co-star and director made multiple women feel uncomfortable on set.
I thought we were friends.
We are friends.
This quick trip into the Lively versus Baldoni saga is going to be a countdown from the least shocking moments to the most mind-blowing ones. Now, let's get to it. Number 10. The first signs of trouble. Blake's dragons enter the scene. April 2023. At this point in 2023, all the pieces were falling into place. Justin Baldoni had the passion, Sony was backing the project, and Blake Lively was set to lead. Everything looked good on paper, and it should have been smooth sailing. But then, creative tension sparked. According to Baldoni, Lively had some thoughts on a rooftop scene early in the film. Nothing unusual. Actors tweak scripts all the time, but when she invited him over to discuss, he walked into a room that felt less like a creative meeting and more like a power play. Waiting for him were none other than Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift, two of the biggest A-listers in the world, both hyping up Lively's version of the scene. Baldoni later claimed he felt blindsided, like he was being strong-armed into changes by Hollywood royalty. He agreed to Lively's take, but texted her afterward, "I didn't need your friends to weigh in. I already liked your version." Lively's response? One of the wildest and now infamous Game of Thrones references that would set the tone for the chaos ahead. She said, "Like Khaleesi, I happen to have a few dragons. They protect those I fight for." If you've ever binge-watched GOT, you'll definitely relate to her statement much better than most. The message was clear. Lively had firepower, and she wasn't afraid to use it.
She laughs and says, "Oh, did you get beard on me?" She doesn't say, "Oh my God, you nuzzled me."
Number 9. On-set chaos. Allegations of improvised physical intimacy. May 15th to June 8th, 2023. Now, this is where things start to get trickier. With cameras finally rolling, you'd think the drama around scene rewrites would take a back seat. Instead, it escalated fast. According to insiders, tension between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni was already bubbling beneath the surface. Then came the moment that turned it into a full-blown eruption. Lively accused Baldoni of improvising physical intimacy during a scene, claiming he caressed her in a way that wasn't in the script. It was an explosive allegation. Baldoni denied it immediately, but the damage was done. Whispers spread and the set became a pressure cooker. Whether she was telling the truth or not, the genie was out of the bottle, and everything went downward spiral from there.
As he said, "It smells so good." None of this was remotely in character or based on any dialogue in the script, and nothing needed to be said because, again, there was no sound. Mr. Baldoni was caressing.
Then, months later, after the whole situation had turned into the most entertaining but brutal legal saga Hollywood has seen in a while, Baldoni's team struck back. They leaked the exact behind-the-scenes footage that Lively claimed was proof of him harassing her. It was a clear attempt to prove that Lively's accusations were false, and they succeeded. The clip showed rehearsals, multiple takes, and nothing out of the ordinary, which made people start to wonder about the integrity of Lively's claims. But here's the million-dollar question. Did Lively simply forget what actually transpired between her and Baldoni in that scene? Or was it a carefully orchestrated smear campaign to discredit the director? Well, the answer depends on who you ask. Team Lively called the leaked video a gaslighting stunt. Team Baldoni said it was evidence of the truth. Either way, the battle lines were drawn, and this was only the beginning. Forget what actually transpired between her and Baldoni in that scene? Or was it a carefully orchestrated smear campaign to discredit the director? Well, the answer depends on who you ask. Team Lively called the leaked video a gaslighting stunt. Team Baldoni said it was evidence of the truth. Either way, the battle lines were drawn, and this was only the beginning.
This is what she's done throughout. She said, he came in my trailer while I was breastfeeding. Well, then he produced the text messages.
Number 8. The all-hands meeting. Blake versus Baldoni and Reynolds, January 2024. By early 2024, things were no longer just tense, they were radioactive. Blake Lively called for an in-person meeting with Sony executives, Baldoni, Heath, and 2 other producers of the movie. Oh, and her husband Ryan Reynolds was in attendance too. But what happened behind the closed-door meeting? Well, that depends on who you believe. Baldoni later claimed Reynolds humiliated him during this meeting, allegedly berating him in front of the studio. Meanwhile, Lively and her team insisted the meeting was about accountability. According to them, they laid out over 20 specific examples of Baldoni's inappropriate behavior on set. Baldoni, however, pushed back hard. He called many of these accusations entirely new and baseless, painting the meeting as an ambush rather than a discussion. He revealed that not a single one of the 20-plus examples Lively gave in her account was discussed or even mentioned in that meeting. But the real kicker? Sony executives reportedly sat there watching 2 of Hollywood's most powerful forces go to war against their own director, and they didn't lift a finger. This wasn't just a disagreement, this was a battle for control, and neither side was backing down.
That I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor.
Number 7. The Battle of the Cuts. Lively's edit versus Baldoni's vision, February to May 2024. By early 2024, filming was over, but the real fight was just getting started. Traditionally, the director has the final say in the editing room, but Blake Lively, she wasn't playing by tradition. According to Baldoni, Lively forced her way into the post-production process, demanding access to the edit. Not only that, but she also allegedly brought in a Deadpool editor to craft her own version of the movie. For Baldoni, this wasn't just a creative disagreement, he saw it as a hostile takeover.
When I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do.
But here's where it gets even wilder. Sony took Lively's side. In a shocking move, the studio approved her cut over Baldoni's, and that's the version that premiered at the theaters. Baldoni called the whole thing a power grab, but regretted that he underestimated the lengths Lively would go to take over the film from him. But at this point, he wasn't just losing creative control, he was losing the entire narrative.
So she's a serial fraudster. That's called fraud, when you pretend you want to do the one thing and you'll do the thing they're hiring you for, but all along you have secret plans to do something very, very different that's above your pay grade.
Number 6. The Premiere Night Showdown. Lively's premiere versus Baldoni's premiere, August 6th, 2024. After all the drama, the moment of truth arrived, the film's New York premiere. But instead of a triumphant red carpet moment, something felt off. Where was Justin Baldoni? While the cast and crew smiled for the cameras, Baldoni was nowhere to be seen in group photos. Not with Blake, not with Sony execs, not even with the film's other stars. It turned out Baldoni was banned from attending the main premiere and the after party after Lively allegedly threatened Sony that she would boycott the event if he was allowed to attend. Baldoni later claimed that he was completely sidelined at that point. Even though it was his movie, he had no clue about what they were doing with it. He and his company Wayfarer, who co-financed the movie, were asked to throw a separate after party to the one Lively attended. For Baldoni, this wasn't just about missing a party, it was the final insult. Years of work, creative battles, public feuds. And now, at the film's biggest moment, he was pushed out of the spotlight. One thing was clear. Lively was more than ready to erase Baldoni from his own film. But why do something so extreme? Is it revenge or just pure greed to be seen as the brain behind the movie's success? We'll leave that for you to decide.
She bullied him into giving her the movie where she did her own cut. They released the cut of the movie. He didn't even get to see it. He was the director of the film, the producer of the film, the guy who got the rights to the film, the one who's supposed to be in control. He didn't even get to see it. He was in the basement at his own movie premiere.
Number 5. Public turns against Lively for being insensitive, August 2024. In the weeks after the film's release, the public sentiment turned on Lively as some accused her of not taking the film's domestic violence subject matter seriously during the press tour. Fans of the book that inspired inspired the movie didn't appreciate the way she promoted the movie like a lighthearted rom-com. They expected her to use her platform to discuss the societal issues the movie addressed. That was the first time in a long time Lively was called out for her tone-deaf approach. But rather than seeing it as constructive criticism and adjusting, she pointed fingers at Baldoni and his team. According to her, the criticism she was getting on social media was a formulated retaliatory plan to smear her name. She didn't believe it was organic because she was convinced she didn't do anything wrong during the press tour. But Baldoni was quick to fire back, claiming that any public sentiment against her was organic. And to be fair, if you check out some of the interviews she did, she was quite tone-deaf when asked the serious questions.
And then she had the nerve, because she had 2 minutes of bad publicity when the film hit, to come out and try to blame it all on him.
Number 4. Lively strikes back with bombshell lawsuit, December 2024. After months of escalating tensions and public backlash, Blake Lively makes her biggest move yet, and it's a legal nuclear bomb. In December 2024, Lively officially sues Justin Baldoni, accusing him of sexual harassment, workplace retaliation, and actively working to destroy her reputation. But this isn't just a vague lawsuit. Lively's legal team comes armed with receipts. Included in the filing, dozens of text messages, emails, and behind-the-scenes accounts that Lively claims prove Baldoni and his PR team engineered the smear campaign against her. The lawsuit paints Baldoni as a master manipulator, using Hollywood's PR machine to turn the public against her while covering up his own alleged misconduct. Baldoni's response? A flat-out denial. His team calls the lawsuit a desperate stunt and insists the evidence is misrepresented and misleading because they were all taken out of context. But as legal analysts start dissecting the case, one thing becomes clear. If Lively's evidence holds up, this could destroy Baldoni's career. But then, the shocking twists happen.
A week after the It Ends With Us star filed a sexual harassment and retaliation complaint against him with the California Civil Rights Department, as the New York Times reported December 21st, Lively has now filed a lawsuit against him, as well as a few members of his team for mental pain and anguish.
Number 3. Baldoni sues Lively and Reynolds for $400 million. January 2025. If anyone thought Baldoni would stay silent, they were dead wrong. Just weeks after Lively's lawsuit shakes Hollywood, Baldoni fires back hard. In January 2025, he slapped Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and her entire PR team with a massive $400 million lawsuit. He also dunked a $250 million lawsuit on the New York Times after they wrote a damning article that conveniently coincides with the same time frame Lively filed her complaint. His claims: defamation, extortion, and breach of contract. Baldoni's legal team argues that Lively and Reynolds deliberately destroyed his career, not just with the lawsuit, but with a calculated smear campaign designed to make him look like a villain. His lawyers even brought up a shocking claim that Reynolds used his Hollywood power and Deadpool connections to pressure Sony into taking Lively's side. But Baldoni didn't stop there. To prove that Lively's alleged receipts were taken out of context, he released a boatload of text messages, many of which contradict Lively's claims. For fans, this changes everything. What started as a film dispute has now become an all-out Hollywood war, with hundreds of millions on the line. And with both sides refusing to back down, one question looms over everything: who's telling the truth and who's about to lose it all? Number 2. The first courtroom battle, February 2025. By February 2025, the drama is no longer just a Hollywood scandal, it's a full-blown legal circus. With 2 massive lawsuits on the table, both sides march into court for the first time. But before any real arguments can even begin, Baldoni's high-profile attorney, Brian Friedman, zeroes in on a critical issue: how much of this war is being fought in the courtroom and how much is being fought in the media. Friedman argues that Lively and Reynolds' camp has been strategically leaking details to control the narrative. Meanwhile, Lively's legal team claims that Baldoni is doing the exact same thing, weaponizing headlines to sway public opinion. The judge, absolutely fed up. He warned both parties to stop litigating the case on social media, or he would be forced to bring the trial date forward, which was originally scheduled for early 2026. But all the warnings seem to have fallen on deaf ears. These two are still going after each other like crazy. The cat is out of the bag. Reining it back in is easier said than done. Number 1. Lively claims more women will testify against Baldoni, February 2025. Just when you think this legal war couldn't get any messier, Blake Lively drops another nuclear bomb. In a stunning legal move, she amends her lawsuit, revealing that 2 more actresses, reportedly Jenny Slate and rising star Isabella Ferrer, are prepared to testify against Baldoni. Mind you, she didn't actually name the alleged witnesses in her lawsuit, but everyone knew who they were already. The speculation when the news dropped was, if multiple women come forward, it could turn into a full-scale reckoning, one that reshapes Baldoni's entire career and maybe even his future in Hollywood. But you know what's crazy? Baldoni's lawyers are calling their bluff. They dared Lively to add the names of these alleged victims to her lawsuit and get them to join the fight officially. Now, you're probably wondering, why are they so confident? Well, it's because they are convinced that neither of the two women will step forward. After all, Lively has already approached them to join her suit and they refused. So, what happens next? Well, that remains to be seen. It's like a ping-pong battle, but right now, Baldoni's got the upper hand. One thing's for sure though, this story isn't over, so stay tuned.